Hey, if you are a timeshare owner and you think back to the day you bought your little piece of heaven, well, it's probably a good thought. And then you fast forward a few years to the reality that is today and the fact that you probably never used the timeshare, but you have to keep paying those annual fees and maintenance and whatever else they tack on. Now, that's not fun, and it's certainly not good for your finances. My friends at Lone Star Transfer, they're here to help you get out of this ongoing burden in an effective and legal way. And their process is done quickly and has over 8,000 happy customers to prove it. Lone Star Transfer is family owned by my friends Brian and Karen. They will personally make sure that you're one of those happy customers. They have a 99% success rate and they hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Call my friends Brian and Karen by simply pushing pound 250 on your mobile phone. Use the keyword timeshare. Now push pound 250 on your mobile phone, keyword timeshare. Or just go to them online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com. All right, glad you're with us. Wow, what a week this has been. Jam-packed, crazy news breaking every second, minute, hour of every day. You know, how many times does this happen? Going into our vacation. Look, you don't need to feel bad for me. I was supposed to start my vacation Monday. I always take one long vacation a year. Well, it's not starting Monday. It's not starting Monday. Linda's looking at me like, with just daggers in her eyes. This is when we get our break from you. Well, it didn't happen. It all started on Monday with the Inspector General. And then the idiot liar, James Comey, out there. I'm vindicated. Yeah, until we heard from the Inspector General, nobody involved in this is vindicated. Nobody. And you look at that, you look at the madness and these ridiculous, watered down, meaningless 2 impeachment articles that are dead on arrival in the United States Senate, and just how corrupt, just how disgraceful government is at every level. What did Reagan say? We're always but one generation. Freedom is but one generation away from extinction. This is what he knew and understood and was warning us about. Because this type of corruption and abuse of power, we cannot thrive as a constitutional republic if, in fact, this is how things are going to be run. This is a very ugly, dangerous world we live in. If there's good news to take out of this week, it's that we were right all along, and now the truth is out there. And it's out there politically about the do-nothing Democrats in their rage and psychosis against Donald Trump. Every second, minute, hour of every 24-hour day, 7-day week, every month, every year, for 3 long years. I keep counting down the days, 326 days. We, the people, get to shock the world again. If there's any good news, I was right about this too. The 99% of brave men and women that serve in the premier law enforcement agency in the entire world, our FBI, they're good people. They put their lives on the line for us every day to protect us. Same thing with the intelligence community. We're going to talk to Carter Page. We're going to really do a deep dive with Carter Page because he's victimized. Wow, what they did to this poor guy. You know how many people warn me? He's going to burn you. It was interesting because we had this relationship. I began to figure out at some point, I don't remember when, I'd be interviewing him and he wouldn't answer my questions and he's very good at dodging. And I'd be like, you're dodging me. Answer. And at some point, I remember it was in the middle of an interview. He was on the phone that particular day. He wasn't in studio with me. He'll be in studio today. And I literally hit what's called the talkback button where he's talking and I can communicate with my team. And I said to Linda, he's CIA. You remember the moment, right? I figured it out pretty early.
Oh, for sure.
And I said, because then I kept asking, so when you came back from countries like Russia, You talk to agencies, 3-letter agencies. Yeah. We'd have coffee.
Yeah, because he's a good American. He's trying to serve his country.
Well, and I would ask him, remember I was impressing him. Because it didn't add up. Mueller, the whole fiasco, FISA application, dirty dossier. Mueller interviews him one day, and he never hears from them again. Because they knew. Now we know why. Now we know that on top of the other warnings, Kathleen Kavlak, Bruce Orr, the fact that we know it was an unverifiable, dirty Russian dossier that Hillary Clinton bought and paid for, leaked to the media before the election, conspiracy theorists, hacks like Michael Isikoff and David Korn, etc. Circular reporting they used to make it seem to the FISA court that it was something more than it was, and there were multiple sources saying the same thing, therefore it's valid. They did all that on purpose. And this poor guy is being spied on for over a year. And then when the CIA confirms and tells the FBI, no, he worked with us in good standing. Then you have this, what's his name, Kleinsmith guy? I guess he was the one. They alter the document. This is exculpatory for Page. Now they're listening in on his phone calls and, he's saying, look, guys, I don't know these two guys. They know he's telling the truth. They withhold that exculpatory information. They withhold Papadopoulos' exculpatory information. Oh, no, nobody in the Trump campaign would ever collude with Russia. This poor kid, and by the way, to me, he's a kid. I mean, him and his wife go through hell. Lovely people. I remember I had a conversation. You remember the conversation I had with Papadopoulos at one point? Because I can't help it. I offer advice to everybody. What's the advice I give on bonus day, Linda? Say it.
Save your money.
No, that's not what I say.
Money is freedom.
Money's freedom.
Yes, you do say save your money.
But at one point, he had a 2-week stint that he was facing in prison, and he was telling me, I think you were there.
I'm always there.
That he was, I think I'm going to go back on this. I said, no. Don't take the 2 weeks. Anybody can suck it up for 2 weeks. I said, if you don't, they're going to go after you, and you're going to spend 6 years in prison. And he did nothing. They say this is another thing we learned this week. They say that this whole Operation Crossfire Hurricane counterintelligence investigation, which, by the way, I keep reminding everybody can't happen without the White House being involved and knowledgeable of it. This is why, Horowitz is a preview of coming attractions. He was doing his investigation in a bubble. It was extensive. He did a lot of good work here. His conclusions were a little weird. Especially the idea.
His conclusions were a CYA.
Yeah, yes, you're right. But then when they dug down and Lindsey Graham dug down on him, James Comey says he's exonerated and he's vindicated. Yeah, nobody in this is vindicated.
Director James Comey said this week that your report vindicates him. Is that a fair assessment of your report?
I think the activities we found here don't vindicate anybody who touched this.
Yeah, nobody who touched this. So it's ironic that it is the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal in history. We've been vindicated. I was shocked today. I'm in a state of shock. Linda sent over an article. I never get good press. I just don't. I don't expect it. I don't want it. I don't give a flying rip anyway. I just don't care anymore. Whatever part of my brain that's supposed to care about bad press and care what other people think, it doesn't exist anymore. I'll tell you what I do care about. I care about you, this audience. We care about getting the truth. Think of everything we do here. Rush does. Mark does. A few of us on Fox, not everyone. Few of us, is very different, special, and unique. I always say we're all spokes on a wheel. You see what the president's accomplished under unprecedented fire daily. Forget journalism being dead. They are the most repulsive group of people, disgustingly dishonest. The very thing they accuse us of, like everything they accuse Trump of, boomerangs back on them. Hillary with the dirty dossier, and now quid pro quo Joe in Ukraine. Same with the media. Everything. They're state-run, extreme radical, Democratic Socialist Party. You know, they're the press office. Just corrupt to the core. Instinctually, I always knew it, and I never wanted to go to a White House correspondence dinner because I've always said I can't stand them. I never went. Fox was begging me. No. Anyway, Jeff Lord, I was shocked today. And he's a friend of this program and somebody that saw the Trump phenomenon very early, smart as hell, worked in the Reagan administration. Writes The Vindication of Sean Hannity, a relentless pursuit of the truth. And I was, one of the things, it's not about me. I was very happy that he mentioned that this was an ensemble team. There weren't many of us. There really weren't. I should make the full list. Maybe I'll do that next week. There weren't many in Congress that really dug down. Freedom Caucus rock stars, Jordan, Meadows, Gates, Ratcliffe, then Devin Nunes. Wow. When you compare his report versus the compromised, corrupt, congenital liars' lies, I'm highlighting more lies tonight. All this week, I've been highlighting the lies of Comey and the lies of the congenital liar. They're spectacular lies. The impeachment it's dead on arrival. Mitch McConnell did you see him last night?
I saw him.
He was good. I thought he did a good job. I've been very critical of him. By the way, I've been critical of Republicans for a decade now. In a lot of ways. Weak, spineless, they buckle, visionless, swamp creatures. They've gotten better. I still would never join their party. I don't ever want to be a part of any party. We learned this week, and I'm staying on this, and I'm glad I said it as much and as often as I did, because this was only a few within the FBI and the intelligence community that are corrupt. Not the rank and file people that protect us every day, and they risk their lives doing it. You got Comey signing off on 3 of the 4 FISA applications. What did we learn this week? He knew darn well that this was an unverifiable document. I couldn't believe that even Christopher Steele, who we knew, said, I have no idea if any of it's true, only had one subsource who laughed at the idea that anyone would take any of it seriously. It was like bar talk. Hillary paid for it. 17 significant failures, inaccuracies, omissions, subsected out, and it's well over 50. And under this corrupt leadership of Comey, look at what they did to Carter Page, who we'll talk to later. Look at what they did to General Flynn. Look at what they've done to the country. Look at what they've done to the president. This malignant leadership, this politically charged effort because they knew better than we, the smelly Walmart shopper, Trump supporters. They knowingly, repeatedly misled the FISA court. And to do it the way they did it in spectacular fashion. Oh, no, they altered documents. They did zero verification, we now know. Exculpatory information withheld. Omissions at an unbelievable level. Abusing, taking away the civil rights and liberties of one individual, Carter Page, all designed to take out a president of the United States with their insurance policy. How did we get it right? We just kept digging. We never stopped. I can't tell you how many times we had triple sourcing and we'd still wait because we knew if we got one thing wrong that, unlike them that got everything wrong every second of every day, the expectation of all of you is higher. Very proud of everybody and what they've done for their country here. And I have hope because we don't fix this. If we lose FISA, it's not good. Now, reforms are coming. There's got to be accountability here. I think Barr and Durham are signaling very strongly that's all going to happen. That gives me hope, too. As far as this impeachment nonsense, it's just who they are. It defines them. Do nothing, psychotic, raging lunatics. They're hurting the country. Every day they do this. and they don't seem to care.
Hey everybody, it's Josh and Chuck, and we have a question for you. Why do you need LL Bean outerwear this winter? Well, we have an answer as well. Lay it on them, Chuck.
Well, LL Bean outerwear is designed with innovative technology that makes it super easy for you to get outside and still enjoy nature, even in the coldest of winters.
Yeah, what do you like to do outside in the winter? Ski, sled, snowball fight? Well, LL Bean has you covered for even the very coldest weather. Their 850 down jacket, made with DownTech PFC-free water repellent, stays dry 50% longer than the original DownTech.
That's right, and let's not forget, LL Bean outerwear is designed in Maine, where the average low temperature is below freezing from November through March, so I think they know what they're doing.
Oh, they definitely know what they're doing. You can find warm, innovative winter outerwear at llbean.com. That's LLBEAN.com. LL Bean, be an outsider.
So this all impeachment thing, it's going to die in the Senate. The only thing I like about it, maybe you think it's warped thinking on my part, is it shows how corrupt, how insane, how out of touch, how self-absorbed, how narcissistic these radical extreme democratic socialists are. Now, you can see all of that with the new Green Deal, $94 trillion. Great. No oil, gas, no combustion engine, eventually no planes or cows, and everything in life is free. Keep your doctor, keep your plan, save money. A friend of mine recently got insurance in New York, over a couple of $1,000s a month for one individual. And it's crap insurance. There's nothing great about it. But what did we learn this week on top of it? The mob and the media they're not only not journalists, they're corrupt to the core. 17 significant failures, inaccuracies, omissions, altering documents to keep this coup attempt alive. It's breathtaking. You got led by Jim Comey and company, malignant, not rank and file, purposely omitting exculpatory evidence, suppressing information about the reliability of Steele's principal source, a subsource that's saying it was bar talk. Now the attorney general they did spy on the president. Are you kidding? Yeah, what do you think a surveillance thing is? To spy on the president, then candidate, then transition team. Bad faith? No, it was a coup attempt in our time. We learned that this week. 326 days, you get to shock the world again. I hope we do it.
Today's episode is brought to you by Visit San Antonio, because the holidays are fast approaching and San Antonio wants to help you celebrate.
Witness the wonder of the Ford Holiday River Parade, filled with live music and colorful floating light displays.
And yet more lights. Separately from that, San Antonio is home to the largest light display in Texas with over 9 million bulbs.
Six Flags Fiesta Texas features a Holiday Express train that displays Yuletide scenes. I've been to the holiday display in Six Flags Over Georgia, and it's lovely. So many lights. Not too many people usually, and just riding the rides with all the lights around you is a really wonderful experience.
Oh, yeah, definitely go check that out in San Antonio. You can also explore a German Christmas market filled with seasonal treasures, or take a tamale-making workshop. See our tamales episode for more about the history there.
There's also a citywide exhibit of famed Mexican artist Sebastian's work, including over 100 sculptures and other pieces throughout the city.
Plus, you can enjoy an afternoon ice skate on Travis Park's new open-air rink, or attend the big game at the Alamo Dome. Not the big game, the Valero Alamo Bowl.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. The holidays are really happening in San Antonio. Learn more at visitsanantonio.com.
Parts of the now infamous dossier on Trump have proven to be true.
I know the history of the dossier, but it hasn't been discredited. In fact, it's been the opposite. It's been corroborated. Much of the dossier has been corroborated.
This discredited dossier, which was paid for,
Your intel community has corroborated all of the details in there, the meeting.
Some of the substantive content of the dossier, we were able to corroborate in our intelligence community assessment, which from other sources in which we had a very high confidence level.
We know that with the FISA application, the relevant parts of Christopher Steele's dossier were corroborated.
Say that if the application included information from the dossier, it would only be after the FBI had, in fact, corroborated information through its own investigation.
We also know that as time goes on, more and more parts of the Steele dossier get corroborated.
So when the president just refers to it as fake dossier, that is false.
I don't think that is the accurate characterization for the entirety of the dossier.
To be clear, investigators have corroborated part of the dossier.
The dossier has been corroborated by the intelligence community.
U.S. investigators have corroborated some of the allegations in that dossier, although
we do know that parts of it have been corroborated.
It's not been corroborated, but it hasn't been disproven either.
Is there anything in the dossier that has been disproven?
No.
But not one thing has been disproven. No major thing from the dossier has been conclusively disproven.
To date, none of it has been disproven, and whole big parts of it are holding up.
The dossier holds up well. None of it has been disproven.
All of the allegations in it, I don't know that anything has been disproven.
It's a fact that none of it, not one word, has been disproven. In fact, a lot of it turned out to be right on the money.
Former high-ranking intelligence officials have told us on the record that there is nothing in the Steele dossier that they know to have been disproven.
Much of the dossier has been corroborated. Do you not accept that?
I don't agree with that, Alice.
This is our reporting, and this is what crime-fighting agencies have said, that the FBI would not have just taken a dossier to the FISA court and used that as their predicate for the surveillance. They had to corroborate it themselves. That's how they operate.
Yeah, the mob and the media telling you, oh, no, it's the dossier is true. No, it wasn't. And learning about how it's unverifiable, which we knew because of the interrogatory in Great Britain and Christopher Steele under oath under the threat of perjury charge. I don't know if any of it's true. And then the subsource, like, this is bar talk. Hookers on a bed in the Ritz-Carlton mascot urinating on it. It was a joke. But they spread it. That's where the failures, the inaccuracies, the omissions, subsect out 50 plus of them, 17 significant. Knowingly and purposely omitting exculpatory information, altering evidence in a case, going before a FISA judge and telling a FISA court judge something that's unverifiable to spy and take away the civil liberties of one American, constitutional rights of one American. So they one step, two step, which they knew gave them the back door, as I've been telling you, into the Trump world, campaign, transition, and as Barr said, deep into the presidency. And we can deduce from Barr and Durham's remarks is that they're all likely subject in the criminal probe, which we now know is taking place. And they know a lot more than Michael Horowitz, who was living in his DOJ FBI bubble because his purview he was only allowed to work within that bubble. His conclusions were a little ridiculous, although that was vetted out by Lindsey Graham, who did a great job this week on all of this. And now we're going to get into the issues of willful misconduct. And we'll get into again, it's only the upper echelon. Because remember, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Well, he can't win, can he? Well, if he does, we have an insurance policy. Now we know what the counter-intel insurance policy. Kim Strassel, she picked up a great nugget when she says, Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson was talking about Russia collusion in May. But the official story is, it started on July 31st because of George Papadopoulos' comments to, what's the Australian guy's name? Stefan Halper in a bar, which was ridiculous and unbelievable anyway. Now we have evidence. No, this goes back way further. This is their insurance policy. And the president has everybody should be met. And this is all you've gotten for 3 years. Russia, obstruction, stormy, quid pro and quo. But the only one is Joe. Bribery, extortion, First, it's a quid and a pro and a quo, then it's bribery, then it's extortion, and it ends up being he obstructed justice because he sought remedy in the courts to do what every other president before him has done, which is use and exercise executive privilege, and knowing they would have lost in the courts. We'll just speed race this impeachment madness. Now, I'll tell you that when you look at what's happening, and I'm looking only anecdotally at TV ratings, I'm telling you, even the radical base has abandoned this whole impeachment nonsense. You got a House Democrat, there's 31 of them, in Trump-won districts. For example, Western Pennsylvania, Congressman Connor Lamb running as a moderate because he's running in a district Trump carried in 2016. He's avoided criticizing Trump on the campaign trail, even pledged to vote against Nancy Pelosi if Democrats take back the House. Well, it looks like the moderate in sheep's clothing liberal came out for impeachment. There's 31 of them. Nancy Pelosi, remember what happened in 2010? I guess they forgot. Got to pass it before you know what's in it. She had them dive off the cliff then. Now she's going to have them dive off the cliff again. Follow the congenital liar and nutty Nadler and the Schiff show.
One of the biggest criticisms of the process has been the speed at which the House Democrats are moving. But seriously, though,
It's been going on for 22 months, okay? But 2.5 years, actually.
There has been some criticism, though, I will say, about whether or not you should move forward before the end of the year or wait for the courts. Why do you think now is the time to move?
Well, I think we're not moving with speed. This, was it 2.5 years ago that they initiated the Mueller investigation? It is not about speed. It's about urgency.
It's been going on for 2.5 years. Maybe she forgot the Mueller report. Yeah, no Russia collusion. That was the fourth investigation concluding no Russia collusion. NBC News pointing out there might be as many as 8 Democrats indicating they remain undecided. Could be much higher. And by the way, this is so important to House Democrats. I don't know if you saw Louisiana Democrat Cedric Richmond is watching. Well, what is that golf tournament that's going on now? I can't even keep up. This has been such a busy news week. Anyway, I guess Ryder's Cup, something like that. Anyway, so he appeared to be watching a golf tournament on his laptop during the roll call. I just couldn't believe it. We'll play you later on. Oh, man, was Senator Doug Collins of Georgia. Yes, I said that on purpose. He was on fire when Nutty Nadler pulled his little act last night. Anyway, Democrats, do you want to know something? They were caught again, by the way, doctoring the Trump call. But Nutty Nadler wanted to get, we can't do this at midnight because not enough people will see us. We want to be on TV. We want people to see us be stupid. Okay, actually works out in everyone's favor. We had another Democrat during the debate, Veronica Escobar, Texas, changing us to me, trying to make an analogy to assert that Trump committed a crime. If a community suffers from a natural disaster and the governor of the state has aid that will help that community, but calls the mayor of the community and says, I want you to do me a favor. So the conditions given the aid to the community. Well, there are 5 meetings. Aid was never discussed on the call with Zelensky, not one time. It was Zelensky never felt any pressure, didn't know it was being withheld. Office of Management and Budget even said, no, that's actually standard operating procedure. That story came out this week inconveniently. 5 meetings, high-level meetings, including one with the vice president. They never discussed aid. There's only one fact witness they brought up in the audition hearings, and then they had the Schiff show hearings, and then we had the Ivory Tower professor hearings. Which, just bring in a bunch of Trump haters and even a guy that wanted to impeach Trump for saying the words fake news. And then the lady attacking Barron Trump. It is a total Schiff show, sham show for these people. It's a desperate attempt, as it's always been. 3 years, they can't accept the election results of 2016, which is all the better because we get to do it again. In 326 days and shock the world again. How great would that be? Pick your most hated network of fake news. We project Donald J. Trump has been reelected as the 45th president of the United States. I don't think they'll survive. It'll be great.
Sean, can we play my favorite song?
Oh, it's so long.
But it's so good. It's only going to get better.
All right, it's Friday. and it actually is apropos because in 326 days, this can all happen again. Play it.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Is that people think that Donald Trump is a clown.
Donald Trump is a clown. I mean, does anybody seriously think that Donald Trump is serious about running for president?
Donald Trump, he's a clown.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
So basically, this is the beginning of the end for Trump.
The beginning of the end.
Beginning of the end?
This is probably starting of the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
Donald, you're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency.
The strongest person usually isn't the loudest one in the room.
So right now, we have Hillary's about a 75 or an 80% favorite. We have different versions of the forecast you can look at.
Poll has Hillary Clinton up by double digits nationally, 12 points, 50 to 38, four-way race.
Clinton leading in Florida, Clinton leading in North Carolina, Clinton leading in Ohio, Clinton leading in Nevada. I could go on and on and on.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. Come on, buddy.
We have a major projection right now. Donald Trump will take Ohio. That's CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida. Huge win for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we project, will win in Kentucky, in Indiana, with its 11 electoral votes. West Virginia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, North Dakota, with its 3 electoral votes, and South Dakota, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, the state of Montana, North Carolina, Georgia, Iowa, Utah, Wisconsin, Arizona, Kansas with its 6 electoral votes, Nebraska with its 5 electoral votes, and Wyoming with its 3 electoral votes.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
A lot of people have laughed at me over the years. Now they're not laughing so much, I'll tell you.
You get to...
Right?
You get
totally worth it.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. You know, they have zero evidence in this thing. They had the one fact witness that said, oh, no, he said, I don't want anything. No quid pro quo. That's all they got. They didn't show one bit of evidence. Nothing. Now, and then the irony is my whole bifurcation issue, which you hate when I say it. If you have to have a bifurcated brain, you have to be able to compartmentalize away the real Russian dossier Hillary paid for, used as the basis to spy on Carter Page and the president, then candidate, then transition team. It's all obscene and this defines them. This is who they are. You know, Jeffries actually said, the congressman, he goes, American people should decide the outcome of elections. That's why we're impeaching Trump. How dumb can you be? You know, Nadler, I mean, really? They're statists, these people. You know, Collins, his integrity's gone. Bush League. It's all true. You know, you got a process so corrupt. It's never been this bad. Never. Wasting, they do nothing for we the people. And I'll tell you, it's going to be fun to watch these people jump over the cliff. They've watered down any meaning of this thing anyway. It's so obviously political. Mitch McConnell was like, it's not going anywhere. It's done, dead. I'm not going to get into the issue again. I could probably be persuaded either way. My gut tells me they're so psychotic and nuts. The minute you got the votes after the House presents their case, you take you call the roll, you end this madness before they put 15 other impeachment articles in place. Make them go back and do the whole audition shift show, Nadler shift show again. Oh, we'll impeach, we're going to impeach him again and again and again. That's their latest. That's, I guess, their campaign mantra. We can do it again and again and again. Comparing it to the women's suffrage movement. And, on the front to MLK's memory. I mean, some of the comments. Wow. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. We learned a lot this week. The main thing that we learned is how disgustingly corrupt the media is, how bankrupt of ideas, how corrupt the Democratic Party is, and the deep state is real. Hey, if you currently have one of the big carriers for your wireless service, you're probably paying too much. Now, you got to check out Pure Talk USA. Why? Their plans start at $20 a month. Now, it depends on how much data you need, and all plans include unlimited talk and text. Now, Pure Talk believes in being straightforward with their customers. They don't have any monthly line access fees. They don't lock you into any contract. Pure Talk's network covers 99% of Americans. Their customer service is located right here in the USA. Their chairman, their CEO, is a U.S. vet, and Pure Talk is confident you're going to love their service, which is why they include a 1-month risk-free guarantee. You get 50% off your first month when you call now. You want to save a ton of money every month? Dial pound 250 and say the keyword save now. Hit pound 250 and use the keyword save now. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto dial text from Pure Talk USA.
What should happen? Timeout? Let's reassess. Maybe we got this wrong. What would you hope to happen? That the FBI would slow down? Because this is the outcome determinative document that's just had a hole blown through it. They don't slow down. They use the document they now know to be a bunch of garbage twice more to get a warrant against Carter Page. I hope Carter Page gets a lawyer and sues the hell out of the Department of Justice and the FBI. 2 more warrants were obtained by the Department of Justice and the FBI after being told in January by the Russian guy it's all a bunch of bull. But it gets worse. Here's how they describe the interview to the court. The FBI found that the Russian-based subsource to be truthful and cooperative. Nothing about, and oh, by the way, he said everything in there is a bunch of bull. You knew in January 2017, if there was no doubt before, you know by the guy who prepared it that he disavowed everything. It's not true. It's a grain of salt. You shouldn't. I didn't say all these things. Instead of stopping, they keep going. And instead of telling the court the truth, what they're required to do, they lie to the court. A few irregularities. How would you like this to happen in your life? How would you like to be on the receiving end of this? To our people in the news business, what would you like? How would you like this to be your news organization?
All right, that, of course, Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, I thought he hit his high water mark during the Kavanaugh hearings. He's been phenomenal. Now, I'm not going to get into this argument. Let's bring in Joe and Hunter and the whistleblower and the compromised, corrupt, congenital liar, and we'll make it all part. No, I actually don't agree with that. Get it over. But Lindsey Graham said to me last night, you can tell your audience from me, that all of this is going to be investigated at the highest levels. He's not letting it go. So, and the reasoning is you get out of this. Because you give them an extra week, they'll throw another 15 articles of impeachment out at the president because that's how freaking nuts they are. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. I could be persuaded either way, as long as it gets done. Because we're not going through this with nothing and then allowing quid pro quo Joe to walk away with his zero experience on Hunter scot-free. That's not how it works in this country. Finally, we've got an attorney general and a prosecutor that have made it clear that everything that we reported, I've never had in my entire life, 31 years in radio and now my 24th year at Fox, an article that shocked me about me. Jeff Lord did it. What's his website again? It's and I know he works with The Spectator.
Jeffrey, thejeffreylord.com.
Did you read this? Did you see
the guy is unbelievable.
Now we've been friends for a lot of years. He listens every day. He comes on when we invite him on anytime we want him.
I like him almost as much as Carter.
He writes, the vindication of Sean Hannity in a relentless pursuit of the truth. I was like, nobody's going to care. We were right about Obama. Nobody ever wrote about it. We spent, and he gives credit to a lot of our ensemble cast members. We didn't do this alone. And the mob, think of all they've gotten wrong.
So let me tell you something, a little secret, and I'll tell Carter too, since he's here. So
well, Carter Page is going to join us in a second.
Well, he is joining us. So, but he's
right
being
now.
very patient. So Jeffrey the other day goes to the rally in Hershey. So he's sitting in a car's in front of him. Guy pays his way through the parking attendant because he sees Jeffrey through his rear view, which is just incredible. And Jeffrey's like, no, I have VIP passes. I'm already paid for it. Give his money back. You know, he's a true Jeffrey, sweetheart. Gets through, parks his car. He's like walking around. Couldn't even get to the front of the line. Either people wanted to talk to him about you, Sean, and talk about all the good things you're doing, or they wanted to talk to him, working for Reagan, supporting Trump. He said people are fired up and they're pissed. He said they're so angry about what's happened. And I have to say, it's pretty incredible. He said, people love you, Sean. You're well loved out there. So, you know,
not to say anything, but when it was a little odd, you get in the middle of this crap. And we have done, I think, our deepest dive we've ever done on any one topic. And I thought we did a really good job vetting Obama when the media wouldn't. We worked really hard on all of that, but we were right. And I'm very proud of everybody that had a part to play in that, because that's our goal. It is about the pursuit of truth, and everybody else is lying. Now, I want to introduce Carter Page, and I love what Lindsay said there about Carter Page. Now, in the course, Carter, I want to walk through this systematically with you. How many times do you think radio and TV you've been on my shows?
I've lost track a long time ago, Sean, but it was an honor the first time, and
and now you can't stand me anymore.
It's I mean, what to be on the number one show on TV, and I mean, it was a great honor.
But 625 of the greatest, biggest, best radio stations in the country. How many times did I press you, and at times to the point where you were uncomfortable over what you were doing in Russia, what you did for a living, why you were there, what would you do with information, who did you sit down with in terms of 3-letter agencies in the country when you got back? How hard do you think on a scale of 1 to 10 I pushed you at times on those issues?
You kept pushing and pushing, Sean, and digging.
I was
deep.
nice about it.
Well, no, you were. I mean, it's consistent with what you, Linda, the entire Hannity ensemble have been doing for so long. Is really just digging for the truth. And again, it's confidential government information, the things I was involved in. I tried to respect that confidentiality, but unfortunately, eventually, there are a lot of criminal leakers in other people that have worked for and in the U.S. government.
Because you're at the epicenter, Carter. This was all, they used you. They used you. They stripped you of all your civil liberties, all your constitutional rights. You were denied all of them. They spied on you for a year, but really you were just a conduit, a one-step, two-step, as we call it, which is, once you get the FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page, and okay, we can use the whole Russian narrative, and I thought Kimberly Strassel tying this back to Fusion GPS in May was very revealing, because the official story is it started in July, and that's another lie. But that's what your country did to you, just like the way they treated General Flynn. So I want to stay focused, and if I need to take more time than this half hour, I will. Because I would push you, and I would say, well, who did you meet with when you came back from Russia? And you would say, very uncomfortably, well, I would sit with people from the government, and then I said, you'd answer every question they had. Yeah, oh yeah. And you'd have lunches and dinners, right? And remember those conversations?
I remember them vividly, Sean.
Do you remember when I got a little pissed off one day because you were ducking me and dodging me, and I was calling you out? I said, you're not answering me, are you?
Yes.
One particular interview, you remember?
Yes. I remember that one very, very vividly.
So what I began to figure out, based on the information as it was unfolding, at some point, and I think I said it to Linda, in the middle of the interview, I can actually talk to her by hitting a button when you're talking. I said, he worked for our intelligence community. He was in the CIA. Remember, Linda?
Yes, boss.
And then I pushed you harder. And then based on the way you ducked, I knew that was correct. How many years did you serve your country in this capacity? Now it's out there. You can talk about it.
Well, it goes back. I mean, my first time when I worked in the Pentagon starting in the middle of '93 through the end of '94. That's was the start, and I spent some time out at Langley then. So
by the way, you see, he's still locked into his whole method of thinking. That's fine. You don't have to give us every detail. But when somebody is working with the greatest intelligence agencies on the planet, and you're in a country like Russia, and by the way, of course Putin interfered in our elections and Russia did. We already know that. And Devin Nunes warned about it in 2014. They didn't do anything to stop it. But I'm just guessing that if they discover that you're working for the CIA, your life might be in jeopardy, right? Wasn't he responsible for poisoning some people that he didn't like?
That's the allegation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you would come back and I kept digging and pushing you and I'd ask you again and again, I said, well, would you meet with the CIA? Would you meet with the NSA? And the answer was always yes. So the reality is now we know not only did they strip you of your constitutional rights and liberties and civil liberties, but they even altered a document to do it because the CIA confirmed that you not only did work for them, but you were in good standing. Is that true now? Do we now have that as fact?
That was in the report. Yes, yes, Sean, and I greatly appreciate that they revealed that fact. Yes,
and they made it just the opposite. They said they lied. They altered the document that was exculpatory for you and said just the opposite, didn't they?
Yes. And again, I would highlight what you said a few minutes ago about as a way of getting at President Trump, because this is precisely what they've been doing to him nonstop throughout the last several years. And I mean, it's up on the screen now with all this impeachment stuff. So, yep.
Now, where I began to get more and more information based, number one, on pushing you and then your non-answers, which I called you out on. I mean, there was one show in particular, I was a little mean because you're not answering, Carter. Carter, give us the answers. We're looking for answers. But when Mueller brought you in, how many hours were you with Mueller and his team?
A full day, Sean. Yep.
A full day. And nothing ever happened, did it?
No, and they were really annoyed because it was all Democrat donors who were in the room with me. Three angry Democrats.
And they all knew as well then who you were and what you did for your country and your government and where you worked. True or false?
That's true. And they also, I mean, it was really the greatest invasion of privacy, right? Because, I mean, that's after the warrants. That was in November of 2017. The warrants expired a couple months earlier. And so they've already been listening. The U.S. government has already been listening to me and the Trump campaign and Trump administration through my communications with them for over a year, right? And they find nothing, and then they're just pushing me to try to find some possible perjury trap that they can catch me out on. So,
well, and nothing came of it because I'm sure that the letter that was altered to make you into a villain when they said just the opposite. Have you seen that letter?
I've seen the description in the report, but what's interesting, Sean, and
no, you're not answering. I'm not letting you get away with that.
Okay.
Have you seen the letter?
Perhaps. Yeah.
Maybe you let him think about it in the break.
Was the letter exculpatory, and did it say you are a great American that served your country well? The essence of it.
Sean, look, there's so much documents. There are so many documents. The level of evidence, clear and convincing. I mean,
but the
overwhelming
here's
evidence.
What I'm trying to get at. Yeah. The agency told them You are a person in good standing. Can I say that?
Yeah. I mean, that's, yep.
And then they changed it to say just the opposite. Is that fair?
Yes. Yep.
This ought to scare the living crap out of every American. What they did with General Flynn ought to scare the crap out of every American. This is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in history. And I told you they used the dirty dossier. And without the dirty Russian Clinton bought and paid dossier, they wouldn't have gotten the FISA warrant to spy on this guy. But they also withheld exculpatory evidence. I'm going to get into that next, Carter, so start preparing your answers and phone conversations, et cetera, and things you said. And then on top of it, they knew they were lying. They altered documents to continue the spying, illegal spying. 800-941-SEAN. Want to be a part of the program. Carter's going to hate me, but it's fine.
Could never hate you, Sean.
Everyone in the mob hates me already, so it doesn't matter. I'm perfectly accepting my role as being hated by many.
You're bringing the country together, Sean, to the contrary, by exposing the truth. So well done.
Trust me. Just like they don't care about you, they don't care about me either. Hey, becoming an informed consumer about CBD products, the latest in wellness trends, is just smart. Now, if that's you, you'd be wise to learn about CBD products when you go to cbdistillery.co. Now, CBD gets confused with medical marijuana. Folks, there is a massive difference. Why? CBD is extracted from the hemp version of cannabis. No psychoactive high whatsoever. You can buy it without a prescription. And while further studies are needed to fully comprehend the potential benefits of CBD, the results so far are very compelling. Now, bottom line is you can read up on your own, become informed, decide for yourself at cbdistillery.co. Now, again, the website, cbdistillery.co. So to recap, if you're into wellness and like reading about what's trending and how it can impact you and your life, you'd be wise to read up on CBD products. And the smart place to start is cbdistillery.co. That's cbdistillery.co. One more time, cbdistillery.co. All right, so we're doing a deep dive. Carter Page has agreed to spend a little more time with us. Steve Scalise will be checking in with us as well, and Donald Trump Jr. checks in as well today. We'll also have time for your calls in the next half hour, 800-941-SEAN. But we got to dig down deep here. We've got to fully, completely comprehend, understand exactly what it is, how corrupt Comey's FBI has been and continues to be. Because if we don't get to the bottom of it, we're never going to solve the underlying problems, which means it puts everybody's civil liberties in jeopardy. That would mean your civil liberties. That would mean your kids, your grandkids. Everybody suffers when the 1%, not the 99 rank and file intelligence and law enforcement guys, special agents in the FBI, when they abuse and use the powerful tools of intelligence and turn them on we, the people. More Carter Page, Steve Scalise, Don Jr. coming up as we continue.
I'm Lori Siegel, and I spent the last decade reporting on technology. I helped introduce the world to companies like Instagram and Uber when they were just a handful of people and an idea, interviewing founders like Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey as their companies quite literally changed the world. But now I want to show you my Silicon Valley. It's a new weekly podcast series called First Contact with Lori Siegel. First Contact will give you what I like to call dinner table access to tech leaders how I see them, human. We'll have nuanced and sometimes emotional conversations about us humans and technology. And we'll tackle ethical issues of the future because things got complicated really quickly. From engineers coding bots to surf the dating apps, to intimate conversations with tech leaders, First Contact will bring you rare access to the billionaires and also the people on the fringes, the ones that you may call weird, but I call the future. Listen to First Contact with Lori Siegel, that's me, on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Carter Page, who's been on the receiving end of all this, the foundation to believe he was a foreign agent comes from a dossier that we'll talk about in a minute. In that dossier provided by Christopher Steele, and we'll talk about him in a minute, they claim that Carter Page meets with 3 people known to be Russians, Russian agents, people associated with Russia. Carter Page, while being wiretapped by his government, says, I don't know 2 of these people, and to this day, there's no proof that he ever met 2 of those 3. The third person, he says, yeah, I met him. I told the CIA about my meeting because I was a source for the CIA. So they would have you believe that Carter Page is working against our government, not with our government. So Carter Page in the summer of 2017 is trying to tell anybody and everybody, I was working with the CIA. I reported my contact with this person, and nobody believed him. The CIA had told the FBI it was true earlier, but it never made it through the system. Somebody got so rattled at the FBI, they asked Mr. Kleinsmith to check it out. He checks it out. He communicates with the CIA. Is Carter Page a source for you? And an email exchange, they say, yes, he is. What does Mr. Kleinsmith do? He alters the email to say, no, he's not. And you caught him. I don't know how you caught him, because you got to dig into this email chain.
Wow, what a powerful moment. That was Wednesday with the Inspector General Horowitz talking about Carter Page, who's on our Newsmaker line now. You know, one little side note before I get into this Kleinsmith issue with you and what you explained on those phone calls. Do you know, Carter, how many people tried to warn me off you? You know how many people told me you would burn me? How do you want to know? I never told you this. How many people said me putting you on was going to be a career killer for me?
I can only imagine, Sean, because when we had our first interviews years ago, I was just getting attacked nonstop by all sides. So those people that said that to you are just consistent with sort of the mass.
I don't even remember. I've tried to go back in the
yeah.
recesses of my mind. I can't even remember. I just remember people don't trust that guy.
I remember. No, I rember that
I think
moment
I told
in
you
history.
at the time, didn't I?
Yeah. Well,
no, I don't know.
You're diplomatic, Sean. You're very
So listen to what Lindsey Graham just said. I want you to tell this audience, when you hear that, when you absorb that, what do you think?
Well, Sean, I again, what he's talking about are things that you and I have talked about for years. I'm just happy that we now have a document from the government, which, a serious, in-depth investigation, which basically confirms everything your team have been digging into and reporting for the last several years. It would never have been possible if it weren't for, people like Chairman Graham and Congressman Nunes and so many people. And again, you provided a platform for them to actually state the truth, in terms
there were
of starting
times
an interview.
you actually told me that off air that I was over the target and more right than I ever knew. You remember telling me that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, when you're doing trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, tell us about this guy, Kleinsmith.
Well, the sad thing about him, I mean, again, there are a lot of allegations of wrongdoing with him. The thing that really disturbs me the most, again, I think the 17 separate instances of FBI misconduct and abuse that were exposed in the Inspector General's report is just, as Chairman Graham has told you, just ugly and damning, right? I mean, this is that, the things in my interaction.
That's 17 significant failures, inaccuracies, and omissions, but it subsections into over 50 offenses. But go ahead.
I know, and you've been digging into that as well with your whole ensemble team here. But the thing that bothers me the most in my interactions with FBI lawyer Kleinsmith is when I had a long series. I spent over 10 hours with the FBI in March of 2017. I ended up getting more death threats. And I told the FBI about the terror threats that I was surviving then. And unfortunately, early the next month, they had another media report, in the constant series of craziness there. And I got more death threats, and unfortunately it was related to a disclosure in that instance of me being an FBI informant, right? So that gets out in the public, and and I tell Mr. Kleinsmith about that myself. I had a direct email exchange with Mr. Kleinsmith, and also with my one of the volunteer lawyers that was helping me at the time had already spoken with him a few times, and so it was on his radar scope. So yeah, I think what he did in terms of all the dishonesty, that's bad. But what's worse is the life or death situation that the FBI not only did nothing about, Sean, they made it even worse, right? Because that was early April 2017. Just a couple weeks later, in the Washington Post, they reveal about the FISA warrants against me, and I get more death threats and living terror more there.
Let's go a little deeper into this. The threats are coming from associates abroad, like from Russia.
Well, no, actually, and again, it goes back to the reporting.
Well, doesn't it go to, in some sense, because in many ways, I think you would fit as be defined in some ways as a covert operative. And certainly on this program with me, you were exercising plausible deniability to the best you could until I finally figured it out. Took a while and a little bit of digging and pushing and prodding and poking, but I got there in my own head. And I remember the moment I said to Linda, he works for the CIA. I promise you he does. And I think, Linda, you looked at me and said, you're probably right.
Yeah, no, I definitely did. I was like, I'm not surprised if he does.
So did you get any threats from any of the people that you met abroad?
Well, it's always a threat, Sean, but the specific ones that I informed Mr. Kleinsmith of, in which I had in-depth discussions with the FBI agents, members of the Comey McCabe team back in March of 2017, were actually domestic threats, and more specifically, all stemming from the false defamatory reports that were paid for by the DNC and pushed with their consultants that were, part opposition research people and part bureaucrats in the DOJ and FBI. And you've been uncovering that for years, so all kind of the background on that part.
All right, so let me go to this other area where we can. So you have these threats, and all of this is unfolding in your life, and meanwhile you're doing just the opposite. And who are the agents in the FBI? You said it was Mueller's team and McCabe and Comey's team. Was it Peter Strzok who interviewed you?
No, and what's interesting, Sean, it's funny, and so I guess I can say it now. I don't like saying it, but the CIA guys that I've worked with over the years. I
don't want to put anybody's life in jeopardy.
Well, but of the players the
players that are well known to us, who was it?
No, it was none of those. No one. There are abbreviations in the Inspector General report which you've been looking through, working through, and they have various code names. But, similarly, and that's what I was leading into. So, the CIA people that I'd meet with over the years would say, well, here's my name, here's my business card, here's my email address, but it's not my real name. They'd intimate to me. And unfortunately, the names that these agents gave me in March 2017, I tried digging a little bit, and I think they're not the actual names, although they never admitted it to me. Like the
do you know
CIA
who they
team.
are now? All right, so
I don't know. No, I don't know. I know I could. If they were standing in front of me, I would be able to identify.
You'd be able to identify them. Yeah. At any point, did anybody ever apologize to you? That may sound like a really dumb question.
No, not only did they not apologize, Sean, in terms of people within the DOJ and FBI, and actually, I do have an exception. I'll mention that, but let's talk about a government context first. Not only did they not apologize, they've actually been stonewalling nonstop throughout the months and years since. I've sent several letters, several requests to FBI Director Wray, asking for some disclosure, right? Because I'm trying to get to the bottom and kind of start rebuilding my life. But, unfortunately, the rebuilding process has not really, at least that I've seen. I'm exceptionally grateful of Attorney General Barr and what he's doing. And obviously.
Have you spoken with him yet?
No, not yet. Not yet.
I would imagine. Have you spoken with Durham yet?
No. Nope.
Okay. So at the end of the day, do you remember how many times I'd ask you, do you love your country? You love your country, right? And you'd say, of course. And you served your country. Would you say the work that you were doing for the CIA and other agencies and other groups, et cetera, was dangerous?
It could be. Well, and it became dangerous on September 23rd, 2016, when the defamatory news report came out by U.S. government propaganda agencies and their, the media outlets, they're funding Radio Free Europe based on the defamatory Yahoo News article, right? Which was then, as we now know, and now we'll see in the Inspector General report, was, part of the basis for this abusive process in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
I just think, well, first of all, I'm fascinated. I think if one of the things that if I ever had my life to live over again, besides like singing anthem songs like John Bon Jovi and songs like Garth Brooks and Kenny Chesney, I would love to do this work because it's fascinating to me. It's very important work. One of the things that worries me in all of this, Carter, is that we need FISA. There are evil actors on the world stage. Russia is one of them. Hostile regime led by a hostile actor.
You're absolutely right, Sean. And I think when you interviewed both Senator Ted Cruz and he actually came on before me on Monday. And, he said the exact same thing I was going to say to you, right? I mean, what we saw in Monday's report is just the first step.
Carter Page, stay right there. Our final moments with Carter coming up. All right, our final moments with Carter Page, fully vindicated this week. I want you to wrap this up and put a big bow on it in the Christmas spirit. What you want America to learn from this, and also what you plan to do about this, considering they took away your civil liberties and they did it by design and on purpose.
Sean, I think this is the start of a huge rebuilding process. I mean, I think I have been just so grateful to Chairman Graham and the entire Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Kennedy, who was on your show this week as well. Just such a long list. And I mean, you have been on the forefront in terms of the media and actually starting to set the record straight. And I have there's definitely a lot. This is similar to what we were just discussing, just a first step in a very long process. I think both in terms of rebuilding our country, our intelligence community.
Critical.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna help in any way. Well, I'm hoping to write and educate the country about this. And I think that, the litigation process, our court system, we've talked about the problems in Congress. Some of those death threats I got were on March 2017, when Congressman Adam Schiff is reading from that fake dossier into the congressional record. That was actually the worst day of the terror threats that I lived through.
I had him nailed from the beginning. A congenital liar. You need your day in court, and I hope you sue the living crap out of every single one of these people involved in this, because, not only were you serving your country and you love your country, then they spy on you for it because they don't like who is running on the other side. They abuse their power. It's corrupt. We better fix it, or we're going to lose our Constitution and country. Carter, want to wish you the best in the holiday season. I know you've been through hell. I hope you feel a certain sense of vindication now at this point. You certainly deserve it.
Well, I really appreciate everything that you and the team have done for since the very beginning, Sean. You were really
you helped us put the pieces together. Yeah. It was different. It was like pulling teeth, but you helped us. Carter Page, thank you. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. Don Jr., Steve Scalise, coming up straight ahead.
Coming up next, our final news roundup and information overload hour.
And this amendment strikes the reference to Joe Biden as the center of the proposed investigation and replaces it with the true topic of the investigation, Burisma and Hunter Biden. Hertz called the Prescott Police Department and officers filed a narcotics offense report listing items seized in the car, including a plastic bag containing white powdery substance, a Secret Service business card, credit cards, and Hunter Biden's driver's license. It's a little hard to believe that Burisma hired Hunter Biden to resolve their international disputes when he could not resolve his own dispute with Hertz rental car over leaving cocaine and a crack pipe in the car.
I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours. I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a got fired.
If the prosecutor's not fired, son of a b, they fired him. A vice president of the United States of America, you're not getting the $1 billion. Why would a vice president want to fire a Ukrainian prosecutor? Who the hell knows about a Ukrainian prosecutor? The New York Times and everybody else tipped off quid pro quo Joe. By the way, we have great T-shirts on Hannity.com. I've never seen any one item sell like these T-shirts. It's unbelievable. Hashtag quid pro quo Joe. With our friends at 9line. But why? Because his son is being investigated by the prosecutor. And his son is making millions. Zero experienced hunter. Making millions and millions of dollars. How many times have I said this? I'm not sick of playing it, Linda. I could play this on a loop because this sham impeachment, these do-nothing, lazy, psychotic, raging anti-Trump lunatics, this is all they've done for 3 straight years. And they deserve in 326 days what's coming. And that's we, the people. You get to shock the world again. Pick your most hated fake news network. And they're, whatever time of night it is, close to midnight, maybe 11 o'clock if it's a really good night. We can now project Donald Trump has just been reelected the 45th president of the United States. Donald Trump Jr., #1 New York Times bestselling author, is a brand new book out, Triggered. He's on the line with us. He's here with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, buddy. Imagine Donald Trump Jr. turned in a rental car with crack paraphernalia in it. Imagine I got thrown out of the Navy in 2 weeks for blowing cocaine. Imagine I spent 2 years running from a woman who was chasing me for child support. I mean, imagine I took $1.5 billion from China. How about this? Imagine I took $1.5 from China. You think the standard would be the same?
If I took $1.5 from China.
If I took $1.5 from China, they would lose their freaking
So you're talking about $1.50.
Job.
You took $1.50.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, if you get a free cup of coffee and you're in China, you're done.
With that?
Don't even... Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can't even make this stuff up. I mean, and you're like, oh, no, kids are off limits. They can attack Barron. They attack Barron, and then, that's not off limits, but Hunter is. The 50-year-old child of a guy. I mean, it's such a shame.
All right. I can't take this. I can't take this child of Biden narrative that I do hear from people. This dopey, he's not a child. He's 49 years old. So let's cut the crap here.
If kids are off limits. Well, I didn't realize that when they spent 2.5 years trying to throw me in jail because I took an unsolicited meeting. I mean, think about the difference, right? I didn't take millions of dollars from foreign governments that were corrupt and under investigation. I didn't, sit on boards on businesses I know nothing about, taking millions of dollars in income when I don't even speak the language. I mean, this is insanity, and it's the double standard by which they're playing, and they try to take anything they can to try to create some false equivalency about us, and then the left has lost their mind. You see it in the sham impeachment. You see it in the nonsense. You see it in the messaging that the media puts out there. Like, Sean, I do this stuff a lot these days. I mean, it's pretty close to me, obviously, at this point. And, I didn't realize that when the media was screaming, well, the IGA report found no bias, their definition of bias was no one actually said the word bias, so we're not really sure. They also don't talk about that the only part where they said there was no bias was they said, well, there's no bias in the way they started the investigation because there's basically no threshold to start an investigation like that. They don't say that there's no bias in any of the things that they did or any of the insanely biased actions of all of these corrupt members of the upper echelon of the FBI and all of those things. They don't say that there's no bias there. They just said, well, there's no bias in the beginning and there's really a low bar. But the media runs with it like, oh, I.G. Horowitz said there's zero bias. It's nothing to see here, folks. It's
we're learning more about that, too, which is, a fairly stunning story about how Christopher Steele was actually working for a Russian oligarch with ties to Putin. How, again, just like the dirty Russian dossier was basically the entire application, and they all lied through their teeth. I had the nicest article in my life ever written about me. It was written in the American Spectator.
FBI agents, they're altering transcripts because they wanted to change not to was so that they can literally change and do the exact opposite so they can justify the ongoing. I mean, this is scary stuff. I mean, this is insanity. If this is going on in America in 2019, we wouldn't accept this going on in a banana republic in 2019. But it's going on here, and the media is pretending like, ho-hum, there's nothing to see here. No worries. There's no issue here. I've lost so much faith in our government in the last few years. But honestly, in the last 10 days,
Don, forget the government. I've gained so much faith in the American people. I'm pretty convinced.
By the way, they see it, Sean.
Oh yeah, they see. By the way, you get the same thing I get, right? Everywhere you go, don't stop, keep fighting. That's what I get everywhere I go.
I see it in New York City. I mean, I'm in New York City even, and this is not a bastion of conservative thought leaders, and they're coming up to be like, honestly, Don, I'm a Democrat, but this stuff is insane at this point. I mean, the fact set, even the minimal fact set that's sort of being put out there by the media because they can't hide some of the stuff anymore, even though they're trying desperately, Sean. Even some of even the limited stuff that's out there, like, man, this is scary stuff. Like, I can't believe this is going on. I will say, like, hey, before 2016, if you didn't believe in the deep state, fine, I get that. You don't want to believe in conspiracies. If you don't believe in the deep state and the disgrace that it is to this country, you're a moron at this point. These people, they're doing it. The entire upper echelon of the FBI was involved. Those top 10 guys. I mean, what was going on here? And the amount of guys that are like the real guys, the actual FBI, like the door kickers, the amount of those guys that I've known, whether it's through competitive shooting or some of those things, or the guys that come up to me literally on the street, like, I'm retired FBI or I'm current. Like, you guys just keep fighting. This is a disgrace to our badge. This is a disgrace to our organization. And they're right, because of course it is. But I don't know how people get faith back in these once great American institutions, Sean, because what they did, the crimes that they tried to perpetrate and almost got away with, and who knows, maybe they still get away with it based on everything they've been able to do so far. It's scary stuff.
All right, stay right there. I will tell you, this is a remarkable moment in history. And I cannot believe that everything that we have said, everything that we have reported on is now vindicated. And it's worse than what we thought. For 2.5 years,
and more importantly, no one's talking about it. They're like, oh, well, there's no retractions. There's no, we got this wrong. There's no mea culpas. It's just like, well, this doesn't work well for our narrative, so we're not going to even talk about this. And honestly, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you don't want this happening again. Because, a couple of those guys nailed it. Be like, hey, this could very easily happen on the other side. And whether it's the investigation stuff, whether it's the impeachment stuff, it is insane. And it is happening under our eyes. And we better wake up as a country.
Well, I think we are. I mean, that's the beauty of it all. But, when you think of just how devastating everything, for example, they care about Russian interference, but only if it's Donald Trump. They ignore the dirty dossier. They care about election interference with Russia. Oh, hang on. Only if it's Donald Trump, not Hillary's dirty dossier. Think about that. They care about obstruction, but not the subpoenaed emails deleted, the bleach bit, the hammers. They care about election interference of foreign countries. We got a court decision in Ukraine that says it happened there, too. I believe Russia was involved. I believe probably a million countries were because they had access to her emails, top secret classified emails. Then we have the Politico outlines how everything that they've accused the Trump campaign of, they did. That Alexandra Chalupa, DNC operative, walks into the Ukrainian embassy, colludes with Ukraine to get dirt on your father and every associate in his life.
Yep. Well, I mean, listen, you played the Joe Biden tape. I mean, by their own standard, is that not way beyond collusion? Is that not way worse than anything they're even saying that Trump did because something actually happened?
He's bragging about it. All right, as we continue with Donald Trump Jr., #1 New York Times bestselling author, his brand new book out, Triggered. And I'll tell you this, for all the time his 49-year-old son, and I love that, I haven't taken a penny from China. Yeah, even his own lawyer said, well, no, he hasn't cashed in his equity shares yet, which will be, according to Peter Schweitzer, he estimates over $20 million. So he's lying again. I don't think there's been a dumber interview than the interview with Hunter on GMA. Yeah. Do you have any experience in Ukraine? No. Energy? No. Oil? No. Gas? No. Why do you think they paid you millions of dollars? I don't know. Do you think maybe it's because your father is in charge of Ukraine policy? Yeah. You know what? Probably. Yeah, that's probably why. I can't believe it.
That's an ABC interview. So they're on their team. And he had weeks to prep for this because he's been in hiding for the entire time of this whole thing. But, hiding from the person he knocked up to, hide from alimony or whatever it is. But imagine he had weeks to prep for this interview to a home team source. And that's still the interview he gave. That's still the answer. That to me just tells me that the entire thing is so much worse than anything, because if that's the best they got, that's the best answer they can come up with, it means they all knew. It's just a big joke. And because the media will never cover them, because the media has decided to be the marketing wing of the Democrat Party, because of all of those things, they're just going to say, no worries, brush it under the table. You can do it again. Just lay low for a few weeks. That's all that's going on in here. It's truly a disgrace. And again, I see it from the American people. I see it through the stuff that just people that come up in the streets wherever I am in the country. But honestly, these days, even in New York,
I swear it's the same. I've never had it like this in New York. I've been in New York almost as long as you. I was born here. Thank God I got out for a lot of years. But honestly, in the streets of New York every day, and you get it. I mean, it is. If I didn't know better, and I know it's impossible mathematically, although Rudy, in a city of 9 million registered Democrats, so they outnumber Republicans 9-1, he still won. But I will tell you, I've never seen anything like it. The disconnect between those people that are supposed to be the servants, those that have done nothing, those that are filled with psychotic rage, the disconnect between them and their constituents. It's never been like this. You talk about triggered, your #1 bestseller, New York Times book. They are triggered at the very name Donald J. Trump.
Well, it was funny when we were out on, even on The View promoting Triggered, right? That's an audience of 150, not exactly a hometown crowd if they're going to The View to see me, right? So, we even turned them when we started talking about some of the basic facts, some of the basic things that some of these leftists, the stances that they take that they can get away with, whether it was, Whoopi with the nonsense defending child rapist Roman Polanski, whether it was even their own audience sort of lost it. And I think that's what you're seeing on a large scale. Like, even the people who are pretty liberal, even the people who are, and I don't want to say Democrat, because there's plenty of good Democrats, hardworking Americans. They've been that way, mostly, frankly, because their grandparents were Democrats, their parents were Democrats. Those are the ones coming up to me like, man, the Democrat Party has left me. And that can be no more evidence than by the policies that you see the mainstream leading candidates pushing. And they don't want to risk. I don't see any American walking into the voting booth on November 3rd next year and saying, you know what, I'm going to risk half my net worth. I'm going to risk my paycheck. I'm going to risk my job to give one of these lunatics a chance. I just don't see it, Sean. They may tell you that in polling because they're so afraid to say what they actually think because of the media. Okay, it's that whisper vote. But, man, you're really going to do that? You're going to risk your job? You're going to risk your 401k? You're going to just...
I got to let you go, but I will tell you.
Who's actually delivering? I don't see it.
The people get the last word, Don. Not 326 days. People get to shock the world, and I am counting down the days, and I think it's going to happen, but I take nothing for granted. It's always the 2-minute drill. You have no timeouts. You're down by 6. You get the 100%. Touchdown. You hit the field goal. You win the game. That's what I want to have happen, and I pray does. Thank you, sir. #1 New York Times bestselling author now, Donald Trump Jr. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. All right, 25 till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. We are loaded up. With a ton of great stuff tonight on Hannity 9 Eastern. We're gonna tie this together in a bow. We have Trey Gowdy, Ken Starr, Alan Dershowitz, Steve Scalise, Matt Whitaker, John Solomon has breaking news tonight. Greg Jarrett. We got everybody. And I want to this has been such an incredible week when you think about it. Everything we told you, the dirty dossier, it was the FISA application with 3 other minor additions. Bought and paid for Russian dirty dossier full of lies. Then what else did we discover? 17 significant failures, inaccuracies, omissions. And when you look at the subset of that, it's over 50. Then you look at the sanctimonious, higher loyalty fraud and liar, Jim Comey. He signed off on 3 of the 4 applications, knowing full well, as we told you for a couple of years now, unverifiable information. We find out this week something I didn't know, that there was one single subsource. We knew that Christopher Steele never stood by his own dossier. I have no idea if any of it's true, he said in an interrogatory. Now we find out that is one subsource. One says that was never to be used for anything. That was like bar talk. But they used it anyway for a year. This is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in our history. And it's ironic, on the very same week, you got the do-nothing, rage, psychotic, hate Trump every second, minute, hour of every 24-hour day, every 7-day week, every month, and now 3 straight years. Pushing articles of impeachment that are meaningless. Obstruction. How does, well, because the president did what every other president has done before him, and that's exert executive privilege, and they're on their speed impeachment dial, frenetic pace to get it done before Christmas. So we can't wait for the judicial branch, which you are allowed to seek remedy through when there is conflict between the legislative and executive branches. Yeah, that's where the judiciary, they resolve those conflicts, but they can't wait. They're in a rush. And then we start, and it starts out as quid and pro and quo, but that is only really in reality for Joe with zero experience Hunter. And then we've got, we're going to call it bribery. That sounds better. Well, focus group. Now we're going to call it extortion. That's what we'll call it. Then we end up with 2 nothing impeachment articles. We got the Sounds Best Audio of the Week. Listen in particular to Doug Collins. This was around midnight last night when Nadler pulled his latest stunt. So, he wants a bigger audience, so he moved it to 10 a.m. this morning.
There is nothing that the FBI did that was wrong in the Carter Page surveillance warrant, correct?
I think they followed all the correct procedures.
We found that investigators failed to meet their basic obligations.
But nonetheless, I think it's important that the American people see the actual facts that were presented to the FISA court and understand that the FBI was acting appropriately.
You did find that an FBI employee doctored an email in order to support the Carter Page FISA application, correct?
Correct.
I think the notion that FISA was abused here is nonsense.
Certainly our findings were that there were significant problems.
When Comey there's a lot that the FBI knew about Carter Page that had nothing to do with Christopher Steele's reporting.
We concluded that the Steele reporting played a central and essential role in the decision to seek a FISA order.
A lot more there than simply the Steele dossier, which is what the Republican memo would have suggested to the American public was the key element of that FISA application. That, of course, is not true.
The FISA applications relied entirely on information from the primary subsources reporting to support the allegation that Page was coordinating with the Russian government.
The court was told and given evidence that demonstrated the underlying political motivations.
Christopher Steele, is it fair to say that he had a political bias against Donald Trump?
Given who he was paid for, there was a bias that needed to be disclosed to the court.
It was all nonsense. And the FBI finally has its day with the American people, and I hope they pay attention to it.
I think the activities we found here don't vindicate anybody who touched this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure what to say at this second. I've been in public life now since 2006, and I have just witnessed the most Bush League stunt I have ever witnessed in my professional life. And I've been around a lot of political campaigns. I've been around a lot of things that would make you think. But in the midst of impeachment, the chairman just ambushed the entire committee, did not have any consultation with the ranking members telling us we're going to have votes at 10 a.m. in the morning. I guess they didn't think enough today of spreading their very paper-thin impeachment process for over 12 to 14 hours was enough. So tonight, without consulting the ranking member, without consulting anyone, schedules of anybody be put out there. We're scheduling this at 10 a.m. in the morning.
I don't know. The integrity level of this committee has been, the chairman's integrity is gone. His staff is gone. This was the most Bush League thing I have seen forever. And if the American people wondered about this impeachment anymore, they don't have to wonder anymore. They saw what happened right here tonight, because this committee is more concerned about getting it on TV in the morning than it was finishing its job tonight and letting the members go home. Words cannot describe how inappropriate this was, how I have been saying for the whole year how this committee is just simply rumshotting the rules of this House, and this proves it tonight. They do not care about rules. They have one thing, their hatred of Donald Trump, and this showed it tonight because they want to shine into these cameras, get prettied up, and then vote and make it all happen. This was the most, I'm just beyond words at this point, but it shows their lack of integrity in this process and the lack of case that they have. For them to actually come out here to defend this is the most ludicrous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Why does it really matter if you vote tonight or tomorrow? I mean, Jim Sensenbrenner, the former chair of this committee, complimented Chairman Nadler for how he conducted this markup.
I don't think Jim Sensenbrenner would compliment him right now, as Jim Sensenbrenner left pretty frustrated tonight. The reason we have this tonight is we had worked this out tonight to finish up tonight. So we have members who have flights. We have members who are getting on trains. We have members who are going home because this was going to finish up tonight. But to not even consult the ranking member, to not even give us a heads up, this was all we heard. And we had been consulting back and forth in that last few minutes about who was going to speak and how we were going to end the speaking tonight, so that we had plenty of more amendments and other things we could have offered tonight and been here all night. But we chose to say, we've said all we need to say, they've said all they need to say, and we're finishing this up. That was the most lack of integrity thing I've ever seen by a member of Congress, especially a chairman.
Do you remember who were supposed to be on this Codell tomorrow?
I have no idea.
Scott, just to clarify, before Mr. Nadler announced it, you had gotten no word in any way about it.
I think that my expression right now would confirm that. That was the most shot. And then to see them and then the staff and the chairman have no comment and just sort of go, this is the problem. This is why people don't like us. This crap like this is why people are having such a terrible opinion of Congress. What Chairman Nadler just did and his staff and the rest of the majority who sat there quietly and said nothing. This is why they don't like us, because they know it's all about games. They know it's all about these TV screens. It's all about getting at a president because they want the prime time hit. This is Speaker Pelosi and Adam Schiff and the others directing this committee. I don't have a chairman anymore. I guess I just need to go straight to Ms. Pelosi and say, what TV hit does this committee need to do? Because this committee has lost all relevance. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
That was Doug Collins after the Nutty Nadler version of the Ship Show 2. Joining us now, House Republican Whip Steve Scalise. And, of course, these meaningless articles pass. I will tell you anecdotally, if you're looking for a barometer, Congressman, this should give you a very keen sense of where the country is. I mean, even the most radical extremists that watch, the few that watch fake news, CNN and Area 51 Roswell, Rachel Maddow's conspiracy theory network, their ratings are so low, so bad at this moment. Not even their radical base is buying this. That, to me, is very telling.
Yeah, Sean, they lost the middle a long time ago, and you're right. Now they're even losing the far left because they really thought that there were going to be all these violations of law. They thought the Mueller investigation was going to yield it, and of course there was nothing the president did wrong. Instead of moving on, they went on to all these other things, and they kept promising their base and the American people, oh, don't worry, there was quid pro quo, there was bribery, and there was all these things, except there wasn't any of those things. The president never broke any of the laws, and it backs it up. And you look at the two articles of impeachment, and this is what they've got. It's not only embarrassing, it's a disgrace to the power of impeachment that our founding fathers put in place to check an administration, not to go after somebody because you don't like them politically, because you're upset that Donald Trump won the 2016 election. And I think it's coming out. I think people see this for what it is. Go read it, Sean. 8 pages, not one single mention of the Mueller report. And all of those times they said, oh, the Mueller report showed there was wrongdoing. Well, if there was, why isn't the Mueller report in the articles of impeachment? Because the president didn't do anything wrong, and the American people see it. You can go to all of the swing states, even in Minnesota, in Michigan, the president's either at or above 50% in states like that, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. They're seeing through it. Nancy Pelosi has wasted her majority on a political vendetta against Donald Trump instead of doing things for the American people that she promised. But at least Donald Trump's delivering. He's delivering the things he promised to get the economy back on track, to get our men and women in uniform the tools they need. We just got that bill to the president's desk to make sure that we're securing the border. The president is still building the wall, still securing the border. And I think that's what they hate the most, is that he's following through on the promises of the things he did.
I think that's the president's greatest strength, especially now you can compare and contrast the horrific 8 years of Biden-Obama versus the monumental success, the president under unprecedented attack for 3 straight years by do-nothing Democrats and fighting and pushing through his agenda. You know, I said this to House Minority Leader, your buddy Kevin McCarthy, the other day. I haven't seen the Republicans at this level of their game in years. And I think you know me pretty well. I think I've used these words: weak, spineless, cowards, feckless, visionless, empty promises. They're swamp creatures in their own way. That was me describing your party.
Oh, no. And you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it now.
By the way, was I wrong? I really wasn't wrong, was I?
Oh, look, I mean, you call it, look, Sean, you call it like it is. It's why you've got the viewers you've got. It's why you got the integrity you've got. It's not always pretty. And we've all got to hold everybody accountable. We need to be held accountable. But right now, what you're seeing is a very unified Republican conference, because we love working with this president. We love seeing him deliver for the American people. But I'll tell you, there are Democrats out there right now. I whipped the impeachment bill yesterday. And my objective is that no Republicans vote for it, because there is nothing to impeach the president on. But there are Democrats who are going to be voting with us, Sean. Never in the history of our country has there been an impeachment vote that was only party lines coming out. You're going to see a bipartisan vote against impeachment. That's going to be the only bipartisan vote. And that's really something that Nancy Pelosi is going to have to live with the rest of her life, is a legacy of her speakership, that she weaponized and abused the power of impeachment. The abuse of power that you're seeing right now in these articles of impeachment, the only abuse of power is Congress abusing its power of impeachment right now to go after a president because they don't like him politically, not because he did anything wrong.
Well, I got to say, you guys did a great job. Take a bow, but more importantly, don't stop. We can't have one little flash of unity and fight and then go backwards, because the best politics, Congressman, is keeping your promises, fighting for what you tell. Yeah, it's not that hard.
And what's best, Sean, is through all of this, President Trump's never slowed down working for the American people. They've gone after him, his family, that disgraceful Stanford law professor, going after his son, trying to make fun of his son. How big does she feel? Stanford should be ashamed of what she did. And President Trump doesn't slow down. He keeps working for the American people. He keeps delivering for the American people. It's why I think he's going to get reelected next year.
We hope. And it's 326 days. The irredeemable, deplorable, smelly Walmart shopper Trump supporters like me that cling to their God above Constitution, Bibles, and religion, we get the final say. I like that part a lot. And we get to shock the world again.
People will decide this next year, not Pelosi and Schiff and Nadler.
Good point. All right, Congressman. Good job to everybody. Thank you. All right, that's going to wrap things up for today. An amazing Hannity tonight, 9 Eastern on the Fox News Channel. All right, so with all the news of the week, you got the Horowitz report, the Horowitz appearance before the Senate Judiciary. Then you got the impeachment madness from last night and today. Trey Gowdy, Ken Starr, Alan Dershowitz, Steve Scalise, Andy Biggs, Matt Whitaker, John Solomon with breaking news, and much, much, much more. All coming up. Hannity, set your DVR, 9 Eastern on the Fox News Channel. What a week this has been. We have exposed the mob in the media for being corrupt and abusively biased. And you have 326 days to Election Day. See you tonight at 9. Back here Monday. Thanks for being with us.
Available now from iHeart, a new series presented by T-Mobile for Business, The Restless Ones. Join me, Jonathan Strickland, as I explore the coming technological revolution with the restless business leaders who stand right on the cutting edge. They know there is a better way to get things done, and they are ready, curious, excited for the next technological innovation to unlock their vision of the future. In each episode, we'll learn more from the restless ones themselves and dive deep into how the 5G revolution could enable their teams to thrive. The Restless Ones is now available on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to podcasts.